Her young woman was sent to the blind Sheikh as punishment, but he said, "You are my home." Rachel Thompson looked out the car window with eyes red from crying. At 22, she found herself being taken like merchandise to settle her father's debts. Her life had turned upside down in a matter of weeks. That's when the car stopped in front of the golden gates of an imposing mansion in Beverly Hills, Los Angeles. Her father, Douglas, took a deep breath before speaking. "Daughter, you know we have no choice. Mr. Elias Bradford needs a caregiver, and we need to settle our debt with him." "Daddy, how can you do this to me?" Rachel turned to him with anger. "I dreamed of studying medicine, and now I'm going to be a stranger's maid? Not a maid, a caregiver. And it's only 2 years, daughter. After that, you'll be free." The gate opened automatically, revealing a beautifully manicured garden. The mansion rose majestically, with architecture that blended Arabic and modern elements. Rachel felt a tightness in her chest. That place would be her prison for the next 2 years. Douglas had lost everything in bad investments. The small hardware store that was the family's pride had gone bankrupt, and debts piled up quickly. Elias Bradford, a businessman descended from Lebanese immigrants, had lent $50,000 to Rachel's father. When Douglas couldn't pay, Elias proposed an agreement. Rachel would work as his personal caregiver for 2 years, and the debt would be forgiven. "Mr. Douglas," said a tall, elegant man as he opened the main door. "I'm Victor, the butler of the house. Mr. Elias is waiting." Rachel followed her father in silence through the luxurious hallways. Persian carpets covered the marble floor, and expensive paintings adorned the walls. Everything there breathed wealth and sophistication. They arrived at a spacious room with shelves full of books. A man was sitting in a leather armchair with his back to them. Rachel could only see his grey hair and the white keffiyeh covering his head. "Mr. Elias," announced Victor. "Mr. Douglas and Miss Rachel have arrived." The man stood up slowly and turned around. Rachel held her breath. Elias Bradford was imposing, with striking features and a well-groomed beard. But what caught her attention most were his eyes. They didn't focus on anything, staring into emptiness. "Mr. Douglas," said Elias in a deep voice with a soft accent, "I hope your daughter understands the seriousness of this commitment." "She does, yes, sir," Douglas replied quickly. "Rachel is a responsible and hard-working young woman." Elias walked toward them with calculated steps, clearly knowing every inch of that environment. He stopped a few feet from Rachel. "And you, Miss Rachel? Do you have anything to say about this agreement?" Rachel felt anger rising in her throat. How could her father have put her in that humiliating situation? How could a man accept another man's daughter as payment? "Yes, I do," she said in a firm voice. "I think it's an outrage for a father to use his daughter to pay debts, and I think it's even worse for a man to accept this kind of agreement." Silence filled the room. Douglas turned pale, fearing his daughter had ruined everything. Victor lowered his eyes, embarrassed. But Elias gave a slight smile. "At least you're honest," he said. "That's a rare quality these days." "Mr. Elias, she didn't mean that," Douglas tried to apologize. "On the contrary," interrupted Elias, "she meant exactly that, and she has every right. Victor, please show Miss Rachel to her room, and Mr. Douglas, our agreement is settled. The debt will be forgiven when the 2 years are completed, provided your daughter fulfills her obligations." Rachel followed Victor through the hallways, carrying her simple suitcase. Douglas had left without even saying a proper goodbye, leaving her alone in that strange place. The room was larger than the living room of her house. A king-sized bed dominated the space, with silk sheets and embroidered pillows. There was a balcony overlooking the gardens and a bathroom with a marble bathtub. "Miss Rachel," said Victor, "Mr. Elias always dines at 7 o'clock. You must accompany him and assist him with whatever he needs. He also enjoys listening to reading after dinner." "How long has he been blind?" asked Rachel. Victor hesitated for a moment before answering. 5 years. It was a terrible accident. Since then he has become different, more isolated. You are the first caregiver he has accepted to have around." "Why me?" "I don't know, miss. Perhaps because you were honest with him from the start. When Victor left, Rachel threw herself on the bed and cried all the tears she had been holding back. Her life was over. At 22, instead of preparing for the medical school entrance exam, she was trapped in a mansion as a caregiver for a strange man. At 7 o'clock sharp, she went down for dinner. The dining room was imposing, with a table for 12 people, but only 2 places were set. Elias was already seated, waiting. "Punctuality is another important quality," he said when he felt her footsteps approaching. Rachel sat down in silence. The food was delicious, prepared by a Lebanese cook who lived on the property, but she could barely swallow with the lump in her throat. "Do you intend to spend the next 2 years in silence?" asked Elias after a few minutes. "I intend to do only what was agreed upon. Nothing more, nothing less." "And what was agreed upon, in your opinion?" "To take care of you, to assist you with whatever you need." "And do you know how to care for blind people?" Rachel realized she knew nothing about it. She felt even more lost. "No," she admitted. "At least you're still being honest. Victor will teach you the basics tomorrow. For now, you can start by reading to me after dinner." They finished the meal in silence. Afterward, they went to the library. Elias settled into his usual armchair, and Rachel stood, not knowing what to do. "Choose a book," he said. Rachel looked at the enormous shelves. There were thousands of books there in Portuguese, Arabic, and English. She picked up a random Brazilian novel. "What did you choose?" "The Great Gatsby," by F. Scott Fitzgerald. "Good choice. Begin." Rachel started to read, but her voice came out shaky and soft. She was nervous, confused, angry. With every page, she felt more like crying. "Stop," said Elias after a few minutes. "You're reading as if someone had just lost a relative. The book isn't to blame for your situation." "Sorry," she murmured. "Don't apologize. Just read with more emotion. Books are one of the few things that still bring me pleasure in life." Rachel tried to focus more on the reading, but she was still too upset. When she finished the first chapter, Elias dismissed her. "Tomorrow we'll talk more. Good night, Rachel." She went up to her room, feeling exhausted. She called her younger sister, Emily, who had stayed home with their mother. "Rach, what's it like there?" asked Emily worriedly. "It's terrible, Emmy. I don't know how I'm going to last 2 years in this place." "And him? What's the man like?" "He's complicated. Not what I expected. He's polite, but cold. And he has this aura of sadness around him. At least you're safe." "I'm in a golden cage, Emmy. That's not safety, it's prison." The next day, Victor taught Rachel the basic care. How to guide a blind person, how to organize things always in the same place, how to announce yourself when entering a room. "Mr. Elias is very proud," explained Victor. "He hates being treated as an invalid. He prefers to do things on his own, even if it takes longer." "How did he lose his sight?" Victor hesitated again. "It was a car accident." "His wife, she didn't survive." Rachel felt a tightness in her chest. She was beginning to understand why Elias was so withdrawn and melancholic. Were they married for a long time? 15 years. She was the only person who could make him truly smile. During the first few days, Rachel established a routine. She helped Elias with meals, read to him at night, and accompanied him on his walks through the gardens. He knew every flower bed, every tree, every bench in that place. "How do you manage to navigate so well?" she asked during one of their walks. "When you lose one sense, the others become sharper. I hear things you can't even imagine. The wind in the leaves tells me the direction. The sound of your footsteps shows me whether you're tense or relaxed." "And now, how are my footsteps?" "Tense, always tense. You carry the world on your shoulders." Rachel was surprised by his perception. It was true that she lived in a state of tension, worried about her family, about the future, about this whole situation. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like, and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. 1 week after her arrival, Rachel made a discovery that would change everything. While organizing the library, she found an entire section of medical books. They were complex treatises on cardiology, neurology, surgery. "Why are there so many medical books here?" she asked Victor. "Mr. Elias is a doctor, before the accident." Rachel was shocked. A doctor. Elias was a doctor, and she didn't even know. Suddenly many things made sense. The way he spoke, the refined education, the library filled with knowledge. That night, during dinner, she couldn't contain her curiosity. "Why didn't you tell me you're a doctor?" Elias stopped eating and remained silent for a long moment. "I was a doctor, I'm not anymore. But the knowledge is still there, isn't it? What good is knowledge without the ability to apply it? You could teach, you could guide other doctors." "I'd rather not talk about this," he said curtly, ending the conversation. But Rachel couldn't get it out of her head. She began browsing the medical books in her spare time, fascinated by what she found. She had always dreamed of studying medicine, and here was a treasure trove of knowledge. One night during the usual reading session, she took a chance. "May I choose one of the medical books to read?" "Why?" "I've always been interested in the field. I dreamed of studying medicine before coming here." Elias became thoughtful. "Take the internal medicine textbook. It's an internal medicine treatise. Start with the first chapter." Rachel found the book and started reading. It was much more complex than The Great Gatsby, full of technical terms she didn't understand. But Elias began interrupting the reading to explain concepts, correct pronunciations, give practical examples. "This type of arrhythmia is more common in elderly patients," he explained. "I've treated hundreds of cases like this." "What was it like? Being a doctor, I mean." "It was my life. I lived for it. I woke up in the middle of the night for emergencies, spent weekends at the hospital. My wife always complained that I loved medicine more than her." "And did you?" "Perhaps. But I lost both on the same day." In the following days, the medical reading sessions became their favorite time. Elias regained a spark in his eyes when he talked about cases he had treated, surgical techniques he had mastered, lives he had saved. "What kind of doctor were you?" asked Rachel. "A cardiologist, a specialist in heart surgeries. I operated on cases that other doctors considered impossible." "You must have saved many lives." 347 successful surgeries, he said with pride. "I counted everyone." "Why did you stop counting?" Elias's expression closed off again. Rachel realized she had touched a very deep wound. "Because the last one I tried to perform was on my wife, and I failed." The silence that followed was heavy with pain. Rachel understood that Elias carried a terrible guilt. He felt responsible for his wife's loss, and it had destroyed him from within. "I'm sure you did everything you could," she said softly. "You don't understand. I was known for performing the impossible, for saving lost causes. But when it came time to save the most important person in my life, I failed completely." "Was the accident severe?" "A truck hit our car. Nadia had severe internal bleeding. I was conscious but injured. I screamed for the paramedics to let me operate on her right there in the ambulance. They thought I was delirious." Elias stopped speaking, visibly shaken by the memory. "At the hospital, I begged them to let me into the surgery. The other doctors convinced me I wasn't in any condition. I trusted them, and she passed away on the operating table. It wasn't your fault. I should have insisted. I should have operated on her even while injured, even blind. Maybe there would have been a chance." Rachel felt her heart tighten. That man's pain was real, deep, devastating. He had lost not only his wife and his sight, but also his self-confidence. "And after the accident, how did you go blind?" "Brain hemorrhage. The doctors said I was lucky to have survived. I would have preferred to have gone with her." That night, Rachel couldn't sleep. Elias's story had touched her deeply. She was beginning to understand that he wasn't just a cold, wealthy man, but someone shattered by loss and guilt. The next morning, she found Elias in the garden, sitting on the bench where he always stayed. He seemed even more melancholic than usual. "Mr. Elias," she said as she approached. "May I sit?" "Of course." They remained silent for a while, just listening to the sound of the birds and the fountain. "Last night I was thinking about our conversation," said Rachel, "and I wanted you to know that I admire your strength." "Strength?" He laughed bitterly. "I'm a defeated man, Rachel. There's no strength here. You lost everything and yet you're still here. That is strength. That's cowardice. I'm still here, because I didn't have the courage to leave too. Then it's a good thing you didn't, because your story isn't over yet. Elias turned his face toward her voice, as if he could see her. You're too young to talk about these things. Maybe. But I know how to recognize someone special when I meet them. And what's so special about a blind and bitter man? You saved 347 lives. You must have been an extraordinary doctor. That doesn't get erased by a tragedy. The hands that saved lives can't even tie their own shoes now. But the mind that guided those hands is still there. The knowledge is still there. The experience is still there. Elias became thoughtful. Rachel could see that her words were affecting him. Why are you doing this? He asked. Doing what? Trying to comfort me. You're here against your will, paying off your father's debts. You should hate me. Maybe I should. But I can't hate someone who's suffering as much as I am. You're suffering too. A lot. My family fell apart overnight. My father lost everything and used me as a bargaining chip. My dream of studying medicine went up in smoke. So yes, I'm suffering. Elias reached out, trying to find her hand. When he did, he squeezed it gently. I'm sorry for what happened to you. It wasn't my intention to ruin another person's life. You didn't ruin anything. Maybe you just changed the course of things. What if I helped you achieve your dream? I have contacts in the medical field. I could get you a scholarship. Rachel was surprised by the offer. Why would you do that? Because you made me remember I can still do something good in life. And what about me? The agreement with my father? We can find a way to work it out. Rachel felt a mix of hope and confusion. Part of her wanted to immediately accept the proposal, but another part felt she was developing a connection with that man that went beyond obligation. Can I think about it? Of course. There's no rush. That afternoon, during the medical reading, something changed between them. Elias was more animated, explaining concepts with greater enthusiasm. Rachel noticed how his eyes sparkled when he talked about medicine. Were you happy being a doctor? She asked. Very. It was the only thing that made me feel useful, important. When I operated, I felt connected to something greater. You must miss it. Every day. Sometimes I wake up thinking I'm going to the hospital, and it takes me a few seconds to remember I can't anymore. But you can still teach, you can still guide. Your knowledge hasn't lost its value. Maybe you're right. 3 days later, something happened that would definitively change the dynamic between them. Rachel was organizing the books when she found a photo album forgotten on a high shelf. The photos showed Elias at various stages of his life. As a medical student on graduation day, at his wedding to a beautiful dark-haired woman, in surgeries, receiving awards. One specific photo caught her attention. It showed Elias operating in a simple room, apparently in a public hospital. There were children waiting outside. Victor, she called. Where is this photo from? Victor looked and smiled. Ah, that's from the project Mr. Elias ran on the east side. Every Saturday he went there to operate on children for free. For free? Yes. He said it was his way of giving back to life. He operated on cases the public healthcare system didn't cover, children with complex heart problems. For how long? 10 years. Until the accident. He saved dozens of poor children. Rachel was moved. Elias wasn't just a talented doctor, he was also a generous person. That explained the serenity she sometimes noticed in him, even amid the bitterness. That night she decided to tell him about her discovery. I found some photos of you today. Photos? From the project you ran on the east side. Victor told me about the free surgeries. Elias was visibly emotional. I had forgotten about those photos. Nadia insisted on recording everything. Why did you do that? The free surgeries, I mean. Because I was born privileged. I had the best schools, the best opportunities. It was my duty to give back in some way. You saved many lives there. Every child was special. I remember all of them. Little warriors fighting for life. You must miss them too. Very much. Especially a little girl named Olivia. She was 5 years old and had a complex heart defect. All the doctors said she wouldn't survive, but I didn't give up. The surgery lasted 8 hours. Did it work? Perfectly. The last time I saw her, she was running in the hospital courtyard like any normal child. It was one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my life. Rachel felt something strange in her chest upon hearing the description, something familiar. You said Olivia, and she was 5 years old at the time? Yes. Why? It's just... I had a little sister who underwent heart surgery when she was small. Her name was also Olivia. Olivia what? Olivia Thompson. Elias paled. Thompson? Like you? She was my sister. She passed away 2 years after the surgery. Not from her heart. It was leukemia. But those 2 extra years she gained were the happiest of her life. And ours too. The silence that followed was electric. Elias rose from his armchair, visibly shaken. Olivia Thompson, curly hair, brown eyes, had a doll named Lily. How do you know that? She took the doll to every appointment, said Lily would get scared, so she had to take care of her. Rachel felt tears welling up. Elias had operated on her little sister. He had given them 2 precious years with Olivia. You saved my sister, she said, her voice choked, and you saved me too. That surgery was one of the most challenging of my career. Its success gave me confidence for even more complex cases. That's why I'm here. What do you mean? It wasn't a coincidence. It was fate. You saved my sister. And now I'm here to save you. Elias walked toward her, guided by her voice. He reached out until he found Rachel's face, feeling the tears streaming down. Do you still remember her? Every day. Olivia taught me that life is precious, even when it's short. She was a special girl, never complained about the pain, always worried about others. Just like our mother. They fell silent, each lost in their memories of Olivia. The discovery had created a deep bond between them, a connection that went far beyond obligation or gratitude. Rachel, Elias said softly, will you take advice from someone who saved many lives? Of course. Never give up on your dreams. Olivia wouldn't have given up. She fought until the end for the life she wanted to live. But my situation is complicated. Every situation is complicated until we find the right solution. From that night on, their relationship changed completely. They were no longer employer and employee, nor creditor and debtor. They were 2 people who had found in each other something they didn't know they were looking for. Elias began talking more about his life as a doctor. He shared interesting cases, techniques he had developed, the satisfaction he had felt. Rachel listened with fascination, asking smart questions that surprised him. You have a medical instinct, he said one day. You ask the right questions. You grasp concepts quickly. Do you think I'd make a good doctor? I'm sure of it. You have the 3 most important qualities: intelligence, empathy, and determination. I still dream about it every day. Then let's make that dream come true. How? I know the dean of the medical school at State University. He's an old friend. I can get you a full scholarship. But what about the agreement? My father will be in a tough spot if I leave here. Let me handle that. There are ways to resolve the situation without hurting anyone. Rachel felt torn. On one hand, the offer was everything she had ever wanted. On the other, she felt she was developing feelings for Elias that she couldn't explain. He was a complex man, marked by tragedy, but with a depth and kindness that touched her deeply. In the moments when he smiled, rare but genuine, Rachel felt her heart race. Can I ask a personal question? She said one day during their walk in the garden. Of course. Have you ever thought about marrying again? Elias stopped walking. Never. I couldn't love anyone else the way I loved Nadia. But maybe you could love differently. Not better or worse, just different. Do you think it's possible to love twice in a lifetime? I think the heart has an infinite capacity to love. The problem is when the mind won't let it. You speak like someone who has loved and lost. No. I speak as someone who's learning to love. Elias was silent for a long time. Rachel had practically confessed her feelings, and now she regretted being so direct. "Rachel," he said finally, "you're a beautiful, intelligent young woman with your whole life ahead of you. You shouldn't waste your feelings on a broken man like me." "Who says they're wasted? I'm 28 years older than you. I'm blind, a widower, bitter. You deserve someone your own age, who can give you everything you dream of." "What if I said you give me everything I've ever dreamed of? I'd say you're mistaking gratitude for love. I'd say you're afraid to be happy again." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. The conversation had created a tension between them that could no longer be ignored. In the following days, both became more reserved, as if they had touched something dangerous. Rachel constantly questioned herself. Was she really in love, or was it just the effect of being in such an intense situation? Did Elias feel something for her too, or did he just see her as a lost girl? Elias, in turn, fought against feelings he didn't want to admit. Rachel had brought light into his life in a way he hadn't expected, but he felt guilty about it, as if it were a betrayal of Nadia's memory. The situation became complicated when Elias's brother, Marcus, arrived from Los Angeles for an unexpected visit. Marcus was a businessman like his brother, but had a completely different personality. He was expansive, talkative, always involved in deals. He had never married and lived a confirmed bachelor's life. "Elias, my brother," he said, entering the house like a hurricane. "I missed you." "Marcus, what a surprise. You didn't tell me you were coming." "I wanted to surprise you. And who is this lovely lady?" Rachel was serving tea when Marcus arrived. Elias quickly made the introductions. "This is Rachel, my caregiver." "Caregiver?" Marcus raised his eyebrows. "Since when do you accept caregivers?" Things have changed. During dinner, Marcus bombarded Rachel with questions. He wanted to know everything about her, her family, how she had ended up there. Rachel answered politely, but felt uncomfortable with the interrogation. "And do you plan to work as a caregiver for the rest of your life?" asked Marcus. "No. Actually, I plan to study medicine." "Oh, you plan to? And how will you pay for college?" "Marcus," interrupted Elias, "that's none of your business." "Of course it is, bro. You're my brother. I need to worry about you." After dinner, the brothers withdrew to the office to talk privately. Rachel stayed in the library but could hear the argument that followed. "Are you crazy, Elias?" Marcus shouted. "A girl the age of your hypothetical daughter living here? It's nothing like what you're thinking, isn't it? The way she looks at you, how you smile when she talks. Do you think I'm blind? She's a good person. She's good for me. Good for you? Elias, you've been a widower for 5 years. You're vulnerable, needy. Any woman who shows a little affection will get to you. It's not that. And what guarantees she's not interested in your money? Have you thought about that? Rachel isn't that kind of person. Everyone is that kind of person when the amount is enough. Wake up, Elias. You're a rich, lonely man. You're a perfect target. Enough. I don't want to hear any more of this. Then listen to me well. I'll hire investigators to look into her and her family. If I find anything suspicious, she's out of this house immediately. Rachel ran upstairs to her room before the brothers came out of the office. She was devastated. Marcus had planted poisonous doubts in Elias's head. And worse, he was going to investigate her. She knew there was nothing criminal in her life, but her family was going through serious financial difficulties. That could be interpreted as selfish motivation. The next morning, Elias was different, more distant, less affectionate. Rachel tried to talk normally but felt his coldness. "Is everything okay?" she asked. "Yes, why wouldn't it be? You seem different since yesterday." "Just worried about some business deals." Rachel knew it was a lie but didn't press further. Marcus stayed at the house for 3 days, and during that period Elias practically ignored her. There were no more medical reading sessions, no walks in the garden, no intimate conversations. When Marcus finally left, Rachel tried to regain their previous closeness. "May I speak with you?" she asked. "Of course." "I felt these past few days have been strange between us." "They were just normal days." "They weren't. You changed after your brother arrived. Elias remained silent for a while. Perhaps he made me think about some things. What things? About the nature of our relationship, about the differences between us, about what is appropriate and what isn't. Rachel felt her heart sink. And what did you conclude? That perhaps we're mistaking closeness for intimacy, gratitude for affection. I'm not mistaking anything. Rachel, you're a 22-year-old young woman. You're in a difficult situation, far from your family, dependent on me. It's natural that you'd develop feelings that aren't real. How can you say my feelings aren't real? Because I know this kind of situation. I've seen patients fall in love with the doctors who saved them. It's a common psychological reaction. Are you comparing me to a patient? I'm trying to be rational. Well, I don't want rationality, Rachel exploded. I want honesty. If you feel nothing for me, just say it. What I feel doesn't matter. It matters to me. Rachel, stop this. You're deceiving yourself. Am I deceiving myself, or are you running away? Elias stood up abruptly and started walking toward the exit. This conversation is over. It's not over. You're afraid to feel something again. I said it's over. You're afraid of betraying your wife's memory. Elias stopped mid-step, visibly shaken. Don't you dare speak of Nadia. Why not? She's gone, Elias. And I'm sure she wouldn't want to see you wasting the rest of your life out of guilt. You didn't know her. You don't know what you're talking about. I know she was a good woman because she married a good man, and a good woman would never want to see her husband unhappy forever. Elias turned to her with his face distorted by anger. Enough, I don't want to hear any more of this. You're my employee, nothing more. Know your place. Rachel felt as if she'd been punched in the stomach. Employee. After everything they had shared, after all the intimate conversations, after all the connection between them, he reduced her to a mere employee. Fine, she said with a choked voice. If that's how you see me, I'll know my place. Excuse me, sir. She left the room and ran to her bedroom, where she cried until she couldn't anymore. She felt humiliated, rejected, used. She had opened herself completely to him, had shared her dreams, her fears, her deepest feelings, and in return, she received coldness and rejection. That evening, there was no reading. Rachel went down only to serve dinner in silence and then went back up to her room. Elias ate alone, visibly disturbed. The following days were torturous for both of them. Rachel carried out her duties with cold professionalism. She served meals, helped with whatever was needed, but didn't speak beyond what was strictly necessary. Elias missed the conversations, the laughter, the liveliness she had brought to his life. The house became quiet and melancholic again as before. Victor noticed the change in atmosphere and tried to intervene. Mr. Elias, may I offer an opinion? Of course, Victor. Miss Rachel isn't well, and neither are you. We're fulfilling our roles, that's what matters. With all due respect, sir, that's a lie. You were happy these past few weeks. The difference in the house was visible. Happiness based on an illusion. Are you sure it was an illusion? Elias fell silent. Victor had touched on the point that tormented him most. What if your feelings for Rachel were real? What if he was wasting a chance to be happy again? But whenever he thought about it, Marcus's voice echoed in his mind. The age differences, their situations, life experiences, the risks of being manipulated, the possibility of betraying Nadia's memory. A week after the argument, something happened that would change everything again. Rachel received a desperate call from home. "Rach!" It was her mother, Patricia's voice. "Your sister Emily is in the hospital. She had an appendicitis attack." "What do you mean? She was fine when we talked. She started feeling pain last night. This morning it got much worse. We had to rush her to the emergency room. And now? She needs urgent surgery, but the public healthcare system has a waiting list, and we don't have money for a private hospital." Rachel felt desperation taking over. Emily was her little sister, only 15 years old. Nothing could happen to her. "Mum, how much does private surgery cost?" $15,000, a fortune for us. "Let me see what I can do." Rachel hung up the phone with her mind in turmoil. She had no money, no way to help. Her parents were broke. She wasn't getting paid working for Elias. During dinner, she was visibly shaken. Elias noticed but said nothing. They hadn't talked about personal matters since the argument, but when she dropped the water glass, he couldn't ignore it any longer. "Is everything all right?" "Yes, sir. Sorry about the glass." "Rachel, you're clearly upset. What happened?" She hesitated. After being treated as just an employee, she didn't want to open up about her personal life again, but her worry about Emily was greater. "My younger sister is in the hospital. She needs urgent appendicitis surgery." "And what's the problem?" "We don't have money for a private hospital. Through the public healthcare system, she'll have to wait, and appendicitis can't wait long." Elias became thoughtful. "How much does the surgery cost?" $15,000. "I can lend the money to your family." Rachel was shocked. Even after the argument, even treating her coldly, he offered to help. "Why would you do that?" "Because it's the right thing to do. And if my family can't pay it back, then consider it a donation." "I can't accept that." "Why not?" Because I don't want to be more indebted to you." "It's not a debt. It's help." "For you, maybe. For me, it would be another burden on my conscience." Elias stood up and walked over to her. "Rachel, your sister needs help. Are you going to let pride prevent her from getting the necessary treatment?" "It's not pride, it's dignity." "Where's the dignity in letting a child suffer?" Rachel was torn. She desperately needed the help, but accepting it would mean becoming even more indebted to Elias. And after everything that had happened between them, that would be humiliating. "Can I make a counteroffer?" she said. "What?" "You pay for my sister's surgery, and I'll stay here for 2 more years. Instead of 2, it will be 4 years working to pay off the debts." "That's crazy. You'll be here until you're 26. "It's what I can offer." "And your dreams of studying medicine?" "They'll have to wait." Elias was visibly disturbed by the proposal. "I won't accept that." "Then I can't accept your help." "Rachel, be reasonable." "I am being. It's all or nothing." Elias struggled internally. The idea of having Rachel there for 2 more years was both tempting and torturous. Tempting because he'd grown accustomed to her presence in a way he didn't want to admit. Torturous because keeping his distance would become increasingly difficult. "All right," he said finally. "I accept your proposal, but with one condition." "What?" "During these 4 years, you will study medicine through correspondence courses. I'll pay for the course and arrange all the necessary materials. You don't have to—" "That's my condition. Take it or leave it." Rachel felt tears of gratitude spring to her eyes. "I accept." "Then it's settled. I'll transfer the money to your family tomorrow." "Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Now go call your mother and give her the good news." Rachel rushed out to make the call. Patricia cried with relief when she learned the surgery would be paid for. Emily would be operated on the next day by one of the best surgeons in the city. But when the euphoria passed, Rachel realized what she had done. She was committing to stay in that house for 4 years. 4 years near a man she was in love with, who had made it clear he didn't return her feelings. It would be daily torture, seeing him every day, caring for him, being close yet always distant. But there was no choice. It was the price she was willing to pay to save her sister. The next morning, Elias kept his promise. The money was transferred, and Emily was successfully operated on. The family had been saved once again by his generosity. "How can I thank you?" asked Rachel when she learned the surgery had gone well. "No need to thank me. It was a fair agreement. For you, perhaps, I know I'm getting the better deal. We're both benefiting. I'll have a competent caregiver for longer, and you'll fulfill your dream of studying medicine. Even if it's distance learning, knowledge is knowledge, no matter how it's acquired." In the following days, the atmosphere in the house changed again. The agreement had created a new dynamic between them. Elias was more attentive, interested in organizing Rachel's medical studies. She was grateful, but still hurt by how she had been treated. "I got in touch with an excellent college that offers distance learning medicine," said Elias during dinner. "It's recognized by the Department of Education and has a great reputation. Thank you for going to the trouble. I also ordered some updated textbooks to complement your studies." "You didn't have to." Rachel, why are you being so formal with me? She stopped eating and stared at him. Because you're the one who established this distance. Said I was just an employee and should know my place. Elias lowered his head, visibly ashamed. I said things I shouldn't have. You said what you thought. No. I said what I thought I should think. What's the difference? The difference is that when I said those things, I was afraid. Afraid of what? Of admitting you had become important to me in a way I hadn't expected. Rachel felt her heart race. It was the first time he had shown any feeling for her since their argument. And now? Are you still afraid? More than ever. Why? Because now you'll be here for 4 years, and I don't know if I can keep my distance for that long. Who says you need to keep your distance? It would be the sensible thing. Since when are you sensible? Elias smiled for the first time in days. Since I lost my sight, I've tried to be. It's my way of protecting myself. And is it working? Until you came here, yes. And now? Now I'm lost. Rachel stood up and went to him. Elias heard her footsteps approaching and grew tense. Can I ask you a question? She said, stopping beside his chair. Of course. If you weren't blind, if there was no age difference, if there was nothing between us except attraction, would you be with me? Elias remained silent for a long moment. That question makes no sense. We can't ignore reality. Can you answer just this once, as an exercise in imagination? Rachel. Please. He sighed deeply. If there was nothing between us except attraction. Yes, I would. Then the problem isn't me. The problem is the circumstances. Circumstances can be overcome. Not all of them. Which ones can't? Age, for example. The difference in life experience. My great-grandmother married a man 20 years older than her. They lived together for 40 years and were happy. Times were different. Love is the same in any era. Elias reached out his hand, trying to find hers. When he succeeded, he squeezed it gently. You're very young and idealistic. And you're very old and pessimistic. Maybe we're a good pair then. Rachel smiled. It was the first time he had joked about the possibility of them being together. Can I try something? She asked. Depends on what it is. Promise you won't get angry. Now I'm worried. Rachel leaned down and gently kissed his forehead. It was a soft kiss, affectionate, full of tenderness. Elias remained still, feeling the texture of her lips against his skin, the scent of her hair, the proximity of her young, warm body. Why did you do that? He asked, his voice hoarse. Because I wanted to. And because you needed it. Needed it? Affection. Tenderness. A reminder that you're alive. Elias raised his hands to Rachel's face, delicately exploring its contours. She closed her eyes, feeling his calloused palms trace her cheeks, her lips, her chin. You're beautiful, he murmured. I can feel it. How? True beauty goes beyond appearance. It manifests in the voice, in the touch, in the energy, and you have all of that. Elias. Yes? Kiss me. He hesitated for a moment that seemed eternal. Then, slowly, he brought his lips to hers. The kiss was gentle at first, almost shy. But when Rachel responded with passion, it deepened, becoming intense and desperate. It was as if years of loneliness and longing were being poured into that kiss. Elias tasted flavors he had forgotten, sensations he thought were lost forever. When they parted, both were breathless. We shouldn't have done that, said Elias. Why not? Because now everything has become more complicated. Or simpler. Rachel, you don't understand. I carry wounds that may never heal. Guilt that haunts me every day. You deserve someone whole, not someone broken like me. Who said you're broken? I know I am. I see a man of integrity, generous, who saved hundreds of lives, and who saved me too. You see me in an idealized way, and you see yourself in a destructive way. Maybe we're both mistaken. Perhaps, but I prefer my mistake to yours. Elias smiled sadly. You're stubborn. And you're hard-headed. Another good reason for us to work out. Rachel was surprised. Again, he had joked about the possibility of them being together. Are you really considering it? I'm trying not to, but you don't make things easy. I don't intend to make them easy. Rachel, be honest with me. Are you sure of your feelings? Sure it's not just gratitude or Stockholm Syndrome or any other psychological explanation? I am. And you? I don't know anything anymore. For weeks my head has been a mess because of you. And your heart? My heart is even worse. Worse, why? Because it's starting to feel things I swore I would never feel again. And is that bad? It's scary. But is it bad? Elias was thoughtful for a long moment. No, it's not bad. It's just unexpected. From that kiss on, the dynamic between them changed completely once again. Elias stopped fighting his feelings, and Rachel stopped hiding hers. They began to talk openly about the attraction they felt for each other, about the difficulties they would face, about the prejudices they would have to overcome. My brother is going to freak out when he finds out, said Elias one day. And my parents too. They'll think I'm interested in your money. Are you? Of course. I plan to steal everything and run off to Europe. Elias laughed heartily. You make me laugh like no one has in years. And you make me dream like I've never dreamed before. What do you dream about? About a future by your side. About a family. About growing old together. I'm already old. At 60, please, you have energy for 40 more years of life. 40 years is a long time. It's a short time when you love someone. Do you love me? It was the first time the word had been spoken between them. Rachel felt her heart race. I do. And you? Elias stayed silent for what felt like an eternity. I thought I could never love anyone again after Nadia. And can you? Yes, I can. And that scares me as much as it makes me happy. Do you love me? I'm falling in love with you every day. A little more with each conversation, each laugh, each gesture of affection. Then stop haunting yourself and just be happy. It's not that simple. Yes, it is. You're the one who complicates everything. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. The following weeks were the happiest either had experienced in a long time. Elias started smiling frequently again, resumed some activities he had abandoned, even began talking about the possibility of returning to practice medicine in some form. Rachel began her correspondence medical studies with renewed enthusiasm. Elias helped her whenever he could, explaining complex concepts, sharing practical experiences, stimulating her scientific curiosity. You would be an excellent teacher, she said one day. You have a gift for explaining complicated things simply. I always liked teaching. It was one of the most rewarding parts of the profession. Why not go back to it? You could teach at a medical school. Do you think they'd accept a blind professor? They'd consider you a treasure. How many professors have your practical experience? Elias began seriously considering the possibility. He called some contacts in academia and discovered there was indeed interest in his contributions. The Catholic University Medical School is interested in you teaching a course on advanced cardiology, he told Rachel excitedly. That's wonderful. Are you going to accept? I'm still thinking about it. About what? It's the perfect opportunity. What if I can't handle it? What if my blindness gets in the way? Then you adapt, like you've done all these years. You have a confidence in me that I don't have in myself. Then trust my confidence. Elias ended up accepting the offer. He would be a visiting professor, teaching a 3-month intensive course on advanced techniques in cardiology. The news made him euphoric in a way he hadn't felt in years. But their happiness was interrupted when Marcus appeared again, this time accompanied by private investigators. Elias, I need to speak with you urgently, he said, entering the house like a hurricane. Marcus, what's this about bringing strangers into my home? They're investigators, and I brought them because we've discovered some very interesting things about your protégé. Rachel was in the kitchen helping Victor with dinner when she heard the commotion in the living room. She approached discreetly to try to understand what was happening. "What things?" asked Elias. "To start with, her family has a long history of debt. Her father has gone bankrupt 3 times. Her mother works as a cleaner in several houses. They practically live in poverty." "And what does that have to do with Rachel?" "Everything. She came here from a broken family, no prospects, no future. Suddenly she's living in a mansion, supported by a millionaire, with all luxuries at her disposal. Do you think it's a coincidence she became interested in you?" "Marcus, you're exaggerating." "Am I? Then listen to this. We discovered she was previously engaged to a guy her own age. The engagement was called off just a few months before she came here. Guess why? He found out she was only interested in his money." Rachel felt her blood run cold. It was a lie, but a well-constructed one. She had indeed been engaged to Brandon, a young man she met in school. But the engagement was called off because she discovered he had cheated on her with a friend. "That proves nothing," said Elias, but Rachel noticed hesitation in his voice. "It doesn't? Then how about this? She mentioned to you that she always dreamed of studying medicine, right? Well, we found out she tried the entrance exam 3 times and never passed. Her grades were mediocre. Suddenly she comes here and you offer to pay for her studies. Convenient, isn't it?" "Her grades were mediocre because she couldn't afford a prep course," shouted Rachel, coming out of hiding. Everyone turned to her. Marcus smiled with satisfaction, as if he had been waiting for that reaction. "Ah, the protagonist has arrived. How timely." "What you just said is slander," she said furiously. "Slander? Prove it's a lie." "I don't have to prove anything. The accuser is the one who has to prove it." "We've already proven it," said one of the investigators. "We have documents, witnesses, photos, all properly recorded." "What witnesses? What photos? Your ex-fiancé, for example." "He told us some very interesting details about your personality." Rachel knew Brandon was capable of making up anything out of revenge. He had been outraged when she discovered the cheating and ended the engagement. "Brandon is a liar and a traitor. He was the one interested in the little money my family had at the time." "It's your word against his," said Marcus. "And he has a very different version of the story." Elias was silent, processing everything he was hearing. Rachel could feel the seeds of doubt being planted in his mind. "Elias," she said, approaching, "you can't believe these lies." "They're not lies," interrupted the investigator. "They're documented facts. The young lady has a history of opportunistic relationships. She has always been involved with older, financially stable men." "That's a blatant lie. Then explain why at 22 you still don't work. You've never worked. You've always lived off the men you were involved with." "I lived with my parents. And now I work here." "Work?" laughed Marcus. "You live in a mansion, eat gourmet food, have all the luxuries at your disposal, and still get your studies paid for. What kind of work is that?" Rachel was desperate. Everything they said had a basis in reality, but interpreted in the worst possible way. It was true that she had never worked, but because she had always helped at home and studied. It was true that she had been involved with older men, but by chance, not by interest. "Elias, please," she begged. "You know me. You know who I really am." Elias remained silent, his face closed. Rachel could see that he was believing the accusations. "Marcus," Elias finally said, "leave us alone." "Elias, you can't... Leave us alone!" Marcus and the investigators left the room. Rachel and Elias stood face to face in a tense and painful silence. "Do you believe them?" she asked, her voice choked. I don't know what to believe anymore. Believe in what you felt with me. Believe in the conversations we had, the moments we shared. Maybe I misinterpreted everything." "How can you say that, after everything we've been through?" "Rachel, you have to admit the situation is suspicious. You come here as payment for a debt. You get close to a lonely widower, you show interest in him. I show interest because I really feel it. How can I be sure of that? How can I know if your feelings are real or calculated?" Rachel felt as if she were being slapped in the face. After all they had built together, he doubted her based on the words of strangers. "You want proof," she said with a hardened voice. "What kind of proof?" "I'll leave. Right now. I'll walk out of this place, and never come back. Then you'll be certain I'm not interested in your money. You can't leave. We have an agreement. An agreement I'm breaking right now. I'd rather have my family in debt than be humiliated like this. Rachel, don't be rash. Rash? You just accused me of being a manipulative gold digger. How do you expect me to react? I didn't accuse you of anything. I just said I have doubts. Doubts about my feelings, about my character, about my intentions. It's the same as accusing. Rachel ran upstairs to the bedroom and started packing. Elias followed her. Don't do this, he pleaded. Why not? You don't trust me anyway. I need time to process all this. Time for what? To decide whether I'm a person of integrity or an opportunist? To separate facts from emotions? Facts? The facts are that I fell in love with you despite all the difficulties. The fact is that I never asked for anything but your affection. The fact is that I was happy here, even as your maid. You're not my maid. Then what am I? Your mistress? Your protégé? Your charity case? Elias couldn't answer. Rachel finished packing and headed for the door. Where are you going? He asked desperately. Home, where I should have stayed from the beginning. And your father's debt? Let him figure it out. I'm not responsible for his mistakes. Rachel, please, let's talk calmly. There's nothing left to discuss. You chose to believe strangers over trusting me. That says everything about how you see me. I need to be cautious. I've been deceived before. By whom? By your wife? Of course not. By other people throughout my life. Then make them pay, not me. It's not about paying. It's about protection. Protection from what? From being happy again. Elias fell silent. Rachel had hit the mark. He was using his brother's accusations as an excuse to avoid the vulnerability that love demanded. Maybe, he admitted. Then keep protecting yourself, but do it alone. Rachel left the room carrying her suitcase. Elias listened to the sound of her footsteps going down the stairs, crossing the hall, reaching the main door. When he heard the door close, he felt as if a piece of himself had left with her. Marcus and the investigators had gone. Victor was in the kitchen, visibly disturbed by the whole situation. "Victor," called Elias. "Yes, sir." "What do you think about all this?" Victor hesitated for a moment. "May I be honest, sir?" "Of course." "I think you made a terrible mistake." "Why?" "Because in all these months Miss Rachel has been here, I've watched her. I saw how she cared for you, how she worried about your well-being, how happy she was when you smiled. But what about the evidence my brother brought?" "Evidence can be interpreted in many ways, sir. What can't be interpreted is what's in people's hearts." "And what was in hers?" "Love, sir. True love. Anyone could see that." Elias felt devastated. Victor was right. He had let himself be carried away by fear and insecurity, destroying the best thing that had happened to him in recent years. But it was too late. Rachel had left, and he knew that after the humiliation she had suffered, she would never return. He stayed up all night, brooding over everything that had happened, every word they had exchanged, every moment of tenderness, every gesture of affection. Everything seemed genuine when remembered. How could he have doubted? The next morning he made a decision. He called a private investigator he trusted and asked him to investigate the investigators that Marcus had hired. "I want to know who they are, where they came from, if they're credible, if the information they brought is reliable." 3 days later, he received the answer he already expected. The investigators were from an agency with a bad reputation, known for fabricating evidence when necessary. Some of the proof they had presented was false or distorted. The story about Brandon, for example, was real, but reversed. He had betrayed Rachel, not the other way around. The low grades on the entrance exam were real, but due to lack of financial means, not lack of ability. Elias felt like the most foolish man in the world. He had lost the woman he loved due to paranoia and cowardice. He tried to call her several times, but the phones were turned off. He asked Victor to go to her house, but the family had moved without leaving an address. For a month, he tried to find her in every possible way. He hired real investigators, placed ads in newspapers, even went personally to the neighborhoods where she might be. But Rachel had simply disappeared. Elias's despair was visible. He became the melancholic and bitter man he was before, only worse. Now he also carried the guilt of having destroyed his own chance at happiness. "Mr. Elias," Victor said one day, "you can't go on like this." "Like what?" "Not eating properly, not sleeping, not living. This won't bring Miss Rachel back." "Nothing will bring her back. I lost her forever." "Maybe not." "Victor, her character was questioned. She was humiliated in front of me, treated as an opportunist. What woman would forgive that? A woman who truly loves. And if she doesn't love me anymore, what if all this killed her feelings? There's only one way to find out." "What?" "Keep looking. Don't give up." Elias resumed the search with more intensity. He hired more investigators, expanded the search radius, offered rewards for information. 2 months after Rachel had left, he finally got a clue. Someone had seen her working as a receptionist at a medical clinic in the south side of Los Angeles. Elias went there immediately. When he arrived at the clinic, his heart raced upon hearing her voice answering the phone. "St. Joseph Clinic," Rachel speaking. It was really her. She was there working at a simple clinic, apparently trying to stay close to the medical field, even without being able to study. Elias entered the clinic with his heart in his throat. When Rachel saw him, she turned pale. "What are you doing here?" she asked dryly. "Looking for you." "Why?" "Because I've found out the truth about the accusations. They were all lies." "And what does that change?" "It changes everything. I was wrong, Rachel, completely wrong." "You were, and now it's too late. Please give me a chance to explain." "Explain what? That you believe strangers instead of trusting me?" "Explain that I was afraid to open up again, to be vulnerable, to love again." "And I paid the price for your cowardice." Elias lowered his head, knowing she was right. "Will you forgive me?" "Forgiving is one thing. Trusting again is another." "I know I broke your trust, but can I win it back?" "I don't know." The wound was too deep. "Rachel, I love you. I discovered that for sure when you left. Without you, my life has no meaning." "You love me now that you're sure I'm not a gold digger." "How convenient." "That's not it. I always knew deep in my heart that you were honest. The problem was that I let my mind win over my heart. And how can I be sure that won't happen again?" Elias had no answer for that. He knew words wouldn't be enough to regain her trust. "How are you working here?" Penny asked, changing the subject. "Dr. Harrison, who owns the clinic, found out about my situation and offered me the job. He knew about my dream of studying medicine and wanted to help." "And your studies?" "On hold. I don't have the money to pay for the course. Rachel, I can—" "No," she interrupted him. "I don't want anything more from you. I'm rebuilding my life on my own." "And how are things at home?" "Difficult. My parents were furious when they found out I broke the agreement. My father had to sell the house to start paying off the debt." Elias felt his heart tighten. Because of his insecurity, Rachel's family was suffering again. "Can I at least settle his debt? I don't want any favors from you." "It's not a favor, it's my responsibility. I caused this situation. You caused a lot of things, but now it's too late to fix it." "It's never too late, Rachel. If you let me, I can try to fix everything." "How?" "First, by paying off your family's debt. Second, by paying for your medical studies. Third, by asking for your hand in marriage." Rachel was shocked by the last statement. "Marriage? Are you crazy?" "Crazy in love with you. Elias, 2 months ago you doubted my feelings. Now you want to marry me. 2 months ago I was an idiot. Today I'm a man who recognizes his mistakes and wants to fix them. And if I say no, I'll accept it. But first, let me prove that my love is real." "How?" "Give me 6 months. 6 months to win back your trust, to prove that you're the woman of my life, to show that I'll never doubt you again." Rachel became thoughtful. Part of her wanted to send him away and never see him again. But another part still loved him despite everything. "And if after these 6 months I still say no, then I'll respect your decision and never bother you again. And my father's debt? It will be paid off regardless of your decision. This isn't emotional blackmail, it's responsibility. And my studies? They'll be paid for too if you want. No strings attached." Rachel fought with herself. She knew she still loved him, but the hurt was too great. "I need to think," she said. "How much time do you need?" "1 week." "All right. But can I ask a question?" "What?" "Do you still love me?" Rachel looked into his blind eyes and saw vulnerability, fear, hope. "That's a question I'll only answer next week." Elias smiled sadly and left the clinic. These would be the 7 longest days of his life. During that week, Rachel spoke with Dr. Harrison, who had become a sort of father figure to her. "Doctor, can I ask for some advice?" "Of course, my dear." "The man I loved deeply disappointed me. Now he's back, said he was wrong and wants a second chance. What should I do?" "Do you still love him?" "Yes." "Is he a good person?" "He was, until he hurt me." "Rachel, good people sometimes do bad things out of fear or insecurity. The question is, did he acknowledge the mistake?" "He did." "Is he willing to work hard to win you back?" "He said yes." "Then maybe it's worth giving a second chance, but with clear conditions." "What kind of conditions?" "Total transparency, open communication. And the first time he doubts you again, it's over forever." Rachel thought a lot about Dr. Harrison's words. At the end of the week, she called Elias. "I accept your 6 months," she said. "Really?" His voice overflowed with relief and joy. "But with conditions." "What are they?" "First, you'll go to therapy to work on your insecurities. Second, you'll cut ties with whoever planted doubts about me. Third, any hint of distrust from you and it's over for good. I accept all the conditions. Then let's try." The 6 months that followed were intense. Elias truly worked hard to win her back. He went to therapy, cut ties with Marcus, and showed in 1,000 ways that he trusted her. He paid off her family's debt, as promised. He paid for her medical studies, as promised. And most importantly, he treated her like the most precious woman in the world. He took her to dinner at the best restaurants, traveled with her to see beautiful places, introduced her to his friends as the woman he loved. Rachel was softening gradually. She saw that his remorse was sincere, that the love was true, that he had really learned from his mistake. In the 5th month, he asked the question she was waiting for. "Have you forgiven me?" "I have." "And do you still love me?" "I do." "Then will you marry me?" Rachel stayed silent for a moment that seemed eternal. "I accept," she finally said, "but with one final condition." "What is it?" "When we're married, there will be no more of this lady of the house or caretaker business. We'll be partners in everything." "We've always been partners. I was just too foolish to realize it." The wedding was simple but emotional. Only close family and intimate friends attended. Elias was radiant, wearing his traditional Arabic clothes. Rachel was beautiful in a simple white dress with a delicate veil. When it was time for the vows, Elias asked to speak first. "Rachel," he said with a choked voice, "when you came into my home, I was a dead man inside. You brought me back to life. You taught me that it's possible to love again, dream again, be happy again." He paused, visibly emotional. "I made the mistake of doubting you when I should have doubted my own fears. I almost lost the best thing that ever happened to me because of cowardice. But you gave me a second chance, forgave me when I didn't deserve it. I promise I will never doubt you again. I promise I will honor, respect, and love you every day of my life. I promise I will do everything to be worthy of your love." Rachel cried as she listened. Then it was her turn to speak. "Elias," she began, "when I arrived here, I was furious with life, with my father, with you. I thought my life was over, but gradually I discovered that it was actually just beginning. You taught me about medicine, but mostly you taught me about love. You showed me that loving isn't just feeling, it's also forgiving, understanding, accepting. I won't lie, you hurt me deeply. But you also taught me that true love overcomes any hurt, that it's worth fighting for those we love even when it's difficult. I promise I will be by your side in joy and in sorrow. I promise I will be your eyes when you need to see the world through me. And I promise I will love you not despite your imperfections, but including all of them." When they exchanged rings, Elias said something that would be forever engraved in Rachel's heart. "You are not just my wife, you are my home." And Rachel replied, "And you are my destiny." The party was simple but joyful. Victor made sure to prepare traditional Arabic dishes, and Rachel's family brought Brazilian foods. It was a perfect mix of cultures, like the couple themselves. During the party, Dr. Harrison approached Elias. "Take good care of her," he said. "Rachel is a special girl." "I know," replied Elias, "and I intend to spend the rest of my life proving that I'm worthy of her." Marcus did not attend the wedding. Elias had cut ties with his brother for good, after discovering that he had bribed investigators to fabricate evidence against Rachel. "Don't you miss him?" asked Rachel. "I do. But some betrayals are unforgivable. He almost destroyed my happiness out of envy or control. I can't accept that. Maybe one day you'll make peace. Maybe, but not now." The honeymoon was at a resort in the Hamptons, New York. Elias wanted Rachel to see the ocean, since she had spent her whole life in Los Angeles. "What do you think of the beach?" he asked as they walked on the sand. "It's beautiful. The water is turquoise blue. There are hills covered in green forest, colorful houses on the slopes. It's like a postcard." "Describe more." Rachel became Elias's eyes, detailing everything she saw. He, in return, told stories from when he had his sight, described places he had visited, painted with words landscapes he kept in his memory. "You know what amazes me most about you?" she said one night. "What?" "How you manage to be so visual in your descriptions, even without seeing. Visual memory doesn't completely disappear, and you help keep my imagination alive." "How?" "When you describe things, I can visualize them through your eyes. It's like I see with your eyes. And do you like what you see?" "I love everything you show me, especially you." When they returned from their honeymoon, they settled into a new routine. Rachel continued her medical studies, now in person at one of the best universities in Los Angeles. Elias resumed his career as a university professor, teaching advanced cardiology. "Professor Elias," said a student after a particularly brilliant class, "how can you explain surgical procedures so precisely without seeing?" "Because medicine isn't done just with the eyes," he replied. "It's done with the mind, with the hands, with the heart, and especially with experience." Rachel attended his classes whenever she could. She was impressed by the passion he put into teaching, by the way he could convey complex knowledge simply. "You were born to be a teacher," she said. "You think so?" "I'm sure. Your students adore you." "And what do you think of the classes?" "I think I'm the luckiest student in the world. I get private lessons with the best cardiologist in the country." Former cardiologist, cardiology professor. It's different, but no less important. 1 year after the wedding, Rachel made a proposal that would change their lives again. "Elias, remember that project you had in the East Side, the free surgeries?" "I remember. Why? How about we restart that, adapted to your new situation?" "What do you mean?" "You could teach other doctors to perform complex surgeries. You could guide surgeries remotely. You could offer free specialized consultations." Elias was excited by the idea. Together with Rachel, they created an NGO called Hearts United, which offered free cardiology care for people in need. Elias guided the surgeries, gave consultations, taught techniques to volunteer doctors. Rachel, who was in her 3rd year of medical school, helped with basic care. "You know what makes me happiest in all this?" Elias said one day after a successful surgery he had guided. "What?" "I'm saving lives again. Not with my own hands, but through the hands of other doctors I teach. And saving many more lives than you did before." "What do you mean?" "Before you operated alone. Now you're teaching dozens of doctors. Each of them will save hundreds of lives throughout their careers. It's an endless multiplication of good." Elias hugged his wife tenderly. "How do you always manage to see the good side of things?" "I learned from you. Even in the greatest tragedy of your life, you found a way to keep helping people. No, Rachel, I learned from you. You're the one who showed me it was possible to start over." 2 years later, Rachel graduated from medical school with the top grades in her class. Elias couldn't hide his pride. "Dr. Rachel Bradford," he said on graduation day. How good that sounds. "I'm not a real doctor yet. I'm going to do my residency in cardiology." "Are you going to follow in my footsteps?" "Our footsteps. We'll work together at the NGO." "Are you sure? You could choose any specialty." "I'm sure. The heart has always been my passion, ever since I started hearing you talk about cardiology. And since when has it been my passion too? I just didn't know it yet." During the residency, Rachel proved to be an exceptional student. Elias mentored her in theoretical studies, and she applied the knowledge in practice. "You have golden hands," said the chief resident after a particularly difficult surgery that Rachel had assisted with. "I learned from the best teacher in the world," she replied, looking at Elias, who was following everything through another doctor's description. One day, during an intimate conversation, Rachel asked a question that had been stuck in her throat for a long time. "Elias, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Would you like to have children?" Elias was surprised by the question. "Children? I never thought about that after the accident. And why not?" Because I feel old, blind, limited. What kind of father would I be? The best kind, caring, wise, present. But I couldn't teach them many things. I couldn't see them grow up, play ball, drive for the first time. But you could teach other things. You could tell stories, teach about medicine, about life, about love. And I could be your eyes for those things you mentioned." Elias became thoughtful. "Would you like to have children?" "Very much. I dream of having a family with you. And if our children are born with problems, genetics is complicated, then we'll love them just the way they are, like you taught me to do with you." Elias smiled, moved. "What do you mean?" "When we met, you thought you were a broken, limited man. I learned to love you exactly as you are. If we have a special child, we'll love them the same way. You always know what to say. It's because I know you well, and I know you would be a wonderful father. And you would be an extraordinary mother. So shall we try? Let's." A year later, Rachel gave birth to a beautiful girl, whom they named Nadia, in honor of Elias's first wife. "Are you sure you want that name?" asked Elias, moved. "I am. Nadia was part of your story. She gave me you. It's fair that our daughter carries her name. And if she looks like me, then she'll be beautiful. And if she has my eyes, then she'll have the most beautiful eyes in the world." When Elias held his daughter for the first time, he cried as he had never cried before. "What is she like?" he asked with a choked voice. "Tiny, perfect, with your dark eyes and my brown hair. She has your distinctive features, but delicate. She's the most beautiful girl in the world." "And is she healthy?" "Perfectly healthy. Strong heart, perfect lungs, normal reflexes. Thank God." "Do you want me to put your hand on her little chest so you can feel her heart beating?" Elias nodded, and Rachel guided his hand to the baby's tiny chest. The heart was beating strong and rhythmically. "It's the most beautiful sound I've ever heard," he whispered. "It's our little Nadia. Our daughter. Our miracle." In the following months, Elias proved to be a dedicated and caring father. He woke up in the early hours to help with the baby, sang lullabies in Arabic, told medical stories adapted for children. "You're a natural father," Rachel said one day, watching him change their daughter's diaper with precision. "I learned out of necessity, and she's very patient with me. She adores you. She calms down when she hears your voice. And I adore her too. I never imagined it was possible to love someone so tiny so much. Wait until she starts talking, she'll melt you completely, and that's exactly what happened. When Nadia said Daddy for the first time, Elias cried with emotion. "She said Daddy, she recognizes me," he shouted excitedly. "Of course she does. You're her daddy. But I can't see her, and she doesn't care about that. To her, you're perfect as you are." 2 years later, they had another child, a boy they named Gabriel, in honor of the boy who had appeared in the first story Rachel created about their lives. "Why Gabriel?" asked Elias. "Because Gabriel means strength of God. And our son is proof that God gave us the strength to overcome everything. The family was complete. Elias, Rachel, Nadia, and Gabriel lived in a harmony that seemed impossible years before. The NGO Hearts United grew and became a national reference in free cardiology care. Elias was recognized as one of the country's top specialists, and Rachel had become a respected cardiologist. "Do you know what makes me proudest?" said Elias one night after a particularly productive day at the NGO. "What?" "It's not just the number of lives we've saved. It's the fact that we're doing this together. It was always our destiny to work together." "Do you really believe in destiny?" "I do. I believe we met because it was meant to be. I believe everything we went through, including the bad parts, was necessary to get us where we are. Even my stupid mistrust? Even that. It taught me to value our relationship even more. It showed me that true love overcomes any obstacle. And my blindness. Your blindness taught me to see what really matters. It made me learn that true beauty isn't in the eyes, but in the heart. How do you always manage to turn tragedy into a lesson? Because I learned from you that life is just like that, full of challenges that can either destroy us or make us stronger. The choice is ours." That night, while putting the children to sleep, Elias reflected out loud. "Rachel?" "Yes?" "Thank you." "For what?" "For saving me, for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself, for giving me a family, for giving me a new life." "You saved me too, Elias. You gave me an education, purpose, love. You taught me that it's worth fighting for our dreams, so we saved each other." "Exactly, as it should be in a true partnership." 15 years had passed since the day Rachel arrived at the mansion as a caregiver. Now she was a renowned cardiologist, mother of 2 teenagers, beloved wife, and partner in the country's largest free medical assistance NGO. Elias, at 75, remained active as a teacher and mentor. He had become a legend in American medicine, known not only for his technical expertise, but for his generosity and ability to inspire young doctors. "Daddy," said Nadia, now 15, "do you regret losing your sight?" The question caught Elias by surprise. It was the first time one of the children had asked something so direct about his disability. "Why do you ask that, sweetie?" "Because at school some boys said you must be very sad not to be able to see the world." Elias was thoughtful for a moment. "You know, Nadia, when I lost my sight, I thought my life was over, that I would never be happy again. But now I realize that's when my life truly began." "How so?" "Because it was the loss of sight that led me to your mother. If I weren't blind, I might never have needed a caregiver. I would never have met Rachel, never fallen in love with her, never had you and your brother." "So you're grateful for being blind?" "Not exactly. I regret the tragedy that caused my blindness. I regret losing my first wife. But I'm grateful for what life built from that tragedy." "And can you imagine what we look like?" "Yes, I can. Your mother has described you to me thousands of times. I know you have my eyes and her smile. I know Gabriel has my nose and her personality. I know you are the most beautiful children in the world. How can you be sure if you can't see? Because I feel it here." He placed his hand on his chest. "True beauty is felt with the heart, not with the eyes." Nadia hugged her father tightly. "I love you, Daddy, exactly as you are. And I love you, Princess, more than all the stars in the sky. How many stars do you think are in the sky? Infinite, just like my love for you and your family." Rachel, who had heard the conversation from the kitchen, came over and hugged them both. "Our family is truly special," she said. "The best in the world," agreed Elias. "Do you want to know a secret?" said Nadia. "What?" asked the parents in unison. "At school, when they talk about my dad, I feel prouder than any other kid, because I know I have the bravest and wisest daddy of all." "Why brave?" asked Elias, moved. "Because even without being able to see, you save lives every day. Even with all the difficulties, you build beautiful things. That's real courage." That night, after the children went to sleep, Elias and Rachel talked on the porch, as they did every night. "Do you regret anything?" he asked. "What?" "Coming here that day. getting involved with a complicated man like me. Never. And you? Just one thing. What? Doubting you, almost losing you because of fear. That was a long time ago. But it still haunts me, thinking that I almost didn't have you, didn't have our children, didn't have this life. But you do. That's what matters. Rachel. Yes? If you could go back in time, would you change anything? Rachel became thoughtful. Maybe I would change the way your father brought me here. I wish it had been a choice, not an imposition. And after? After we met? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Every tear, every joy, every difficulty brought us here, and here is the most perfect place in the world. For me too. Elias? Yes? You said something at our wedding that I never forgot. What? That I was your home. And it's true. You are also my home. Not the place where I live, but the person where I find peace. They hugged in silence, listening to the sounds of the night, feeling the gentle breeze, enjoying each other's company. You know what I want to do when we get old, said Rachel. What? Keep coming here every night to talk, keep telling each other about our day, keep dreaming together. And when I go first? Asked Elias. Statistically, that's the most likely. Then I'll miss you every day, but I'll keep living, raising our grandchildren, keeping our story alive. And if you go first, then you'll have to be strong for our children, and you'll remember me every time you save a life, every time you teach a young doctor, every time you look at our children. Promise me something? Of course. That no matter who goes first, we won't waste a single day together. I promise. And you? I promise I'll love you until the last day of my life. And after too, if there is an after. 30 years had passed since that first day in the mansion. Elias and Rachel grew old together, saw their children grow up, get married, have their own children. The NGO Hearts United had become one of the largest medical assistance institutions in the country, helping thousands of people every year. Elias, at 90 years old, still gave occasional lectures. Rachel, at 52, was head of the cardiology department at the largest hospital in Los Angeles. Grandpa, said one of the granddaughters one day, tell us how you met Grandma. Elias smiled. He loved telling that story. Once upon a time, there was a brave young woman who was sent as punishment to take care of a blind and grumpy man. And what happened? Asked the children, even though they knew the story by heart. The blind man discovered that she wasn't a punishment. She was a gift, the greatest gift life could give him. And did they stay together forever? Forever and one day more, said Elias, looking toward Rachel, who was setting the dinner table. Grandpa Elias, said the youngest grandson, why do you love Grandma Rachel so much? Because she taught me that home isn't a place, it's a person, and she is my home. Rachel leaned in and kissed her husband's head. And he is mine, she said. Forever. End of story. And you? What did you think of this true love story that overcame all adversities? Could you feel the emotion of Elias and Rachel facing every obstacle together? Leave your reflections on this journey of love, forgiveness, and new beginnings in the comments. Would you like to hear more stories like this? Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to follow other heart-touching, emotional narratives.